All right, everybody, so welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. Today we're going to be talking about a subject that I absolutely love, and no matter where you're at in the country right now, unless you're up north and you're just now like really thawing out, this is just a great technique, period. It's been used for years by, a lot of people made the spinnerbait famous. Rick Clunn's one of them, well-known spinnerbait guy, Jason Christie, all those guys, but it's just a great way. It doesn't really matter what time of year to catch fish on a spinnerbait, although we're in that spring pattern. The fish are up and they're aggressive and they're feeding, getting ready to spawn, or in some cases, depending on where you're at in the country, they may have already spawned or maybe in the process of spawning. Either way, you can still catch a lot of fish with these baits, but there's some things that you really need to know when it comes about, just choosing your spinnerbait. In my personal opinion, you can pick up like this booyah one day and catch them, go back the next and not have any luck, and then, pick up the spot sticker the next time. And you may be wondering, besides the blades, what would be the difference? Maybe this one's a double willow, this one's a double willow. Why would one, outshine the other one, so on and so forth? But either way, we're going to talk about it, so stay tuned. This is something you don't want to miss. All right, guys, so before we jump into anything, if the video helps you at all, make sure to like, subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. I got you covered when it comes to anything bass fishing. Also, comment down below if you ever have any questions or you just want to talk fishing. I love hearing from you guys. So jumping into it, one of the most important things I can tell you when you're fishing with a spinnerbait, you don't want a rod that's too stiff and you don't want a rod that's too soft, okay? Because number one, if the rod's too soft, that thicker gauge hook, when you're running those spinnerbaits with the thicker gauge hooks, it's not going to penetrate the fish's mouth, especially the bigger fish, or those spotted bass with those real thick jaws. Now on the other hand, too stiff of a rod, it doesn't really give them that much give. So when those fish come up behind that bait and they bite, maybe they didn't get it completely, maybe they bite the skirt, maybe they hit the blade. That happens a lot. It gives you time to react and really set that hook when the fish has the bait in its mouth. So the rod that I use is 7-foot medium heavy. I don't care what brand you use whatever you feel comfortable with. I highly suggest a 7-foot medium heavy. I wouldn't really go over a 7'3", just personal preference, but I wouldn't go over a 7'3". A 7'3" or 7 foot to a 7'3" medium heavy is going to be perfect. You're going to have enough backbone to drive that hook. You're going to have enough flexibility in that rod to where if they short strike it, then you're going to end up still getting a good hook penetration when you set the hook on that fish. Now, getting into the bread and butter, the line and the reel. The line and the reel, I typically don't change over a 15-pound test. I typically run 15-pound fluorocarbon year-round with any of my spinnerbaits, and then I like going with the higher gear ratio reel. I don't want like a 8:1-to-1 or anything like that, but typically a 7:3-to-1. No lower than a 7:1-to-1 gear ratio is typically what I'm going to run. That way, a lot of times, especially during the spring, these fish will come up behind these spinnerbaits and they'll hit them, and when they do, they'll hit it and run towards the boat, and you got to be able to take up that line to get that hook set and stuff like that, because if you don't, you're just going to miss a lot of fish. Now, talking about the spinnerbaits itself, there's a couple different brands that I like to run. Number one's a booyah. Number two, got the War Eagle, and then the spot sticker. If you've been on my channel for the past couple years, you've heard me talk about all three, and I have specific situations when I decide to choose one over the other. Talking about the blades, okay, since we got the brands out of the way, I'm going to break this down super simple. I typically want the double Colorados, which is going to be your round bladed spinnerbaits, just like this. I've got the round blade down here, and I've got the round blade, that's the kicker, okay? I'm typically going to run these in the colder months, okay? Why would I run these baits in the colder month, the double Colorado? Simply because I can slow this bait way down, keep it at any depth in the water column. On top of that, it puts out a ton of vibration. So your double Colorados are really going to shine in those cooler months. I can run that bait slower, but also, like this one being the double Colorado, perfect for muddy water. But I'm typically going to run that double Colorado in the early spring, when we get those real early spring rains and the water temperature's still in that 50 to 55 degree range. This is going to be that anything below 55 degrees. So one of the biggest things that you'll notice too with these, if you have one in your hand and the other one in your hand, this is the normal just Booyah Double Colorado, and this is the Booyah Covert series. Number one, the head on the Covert series is much larger than the regular Booyah Double Colorado. But secondly, the wires itself, one is a little bit thicker gauge wire than the other. What this does is this one's gonna have a little bit more flexibility, so when it's going through the water and you're reeling that bait, the faster you reel it, it's gonna have a little bit more of a shimmy action. So the bait's actually gonna kind of do like this. It's kind of gonna move like this as it goes through the water, okay? The thicker gauge one, not so much. It's gonna, no matter how much you kind of reel it before it burns out, it's not gonna shimmy near as much. So it provides a little bit more action in the water. So just remember that when you're choosing a spinner bait, okay? If I got clean, clear water and you know the water's warmed up to 55 or above, then I'm gonna typically go with that lighter wire spinner bait, just because it's going to have a little bit more action into it. And on into the summer, I run the 1/4 ounce spinner baits a lot, the 1/4 ounce War Eagles a lot. Spur Mountain Outdoors, he runs them a ton. It just provides a lot more action to the bait, and in return you're going to get a lot more bites. Now, when am I going to choose, you know, that Willow with the Colorado? Now there's two that I choose. I have the Booyahs, and then I also have the War Eagles, okay? The War Eagles, this Booyah actually has a War Eagle. I can't remember what size the willow blade is, but typically the Booyah is gonna have a little bit smaller willow blade than the War Eagle. But now I'm gonna typically choose that Willow to Colorado kicker in spring. And I'm talking pre-spawn, early pre-spawn, all the way through the spawn into the post-spawn. Why? Number one, this Colorado kicker, it is going to put out a little bit more vibration than a double willow, but at the same time, I can still slow that bait down when I need to. So you're going to notice in the pre-spawn, these fish are going to be very active. They're going to be moving quickly. You're going to be able to run your baits a little bit faster. You're going to be able to push your limits with your baits and still get those bites. Spawn, not so much. You know, it's kind of hit or miss. You're going to have some that's moving up that you can catch them with, and then you're going to have your fish that are spawning that you're going to have to slow down, take your time with, and then you're going to have your post-spawn fish that are just in that what we call post-spawn funk, where it's very, very aggravating to get them to bite. And in either case, I can use that Willow to Colorado and move that bait quickly as I'm going back up into the creek, catching fish that are migrating to their staging area where they're going to spawn. Then I can focus on my spawning fish with my other baits. And then as maybe, you know, I'm moving back out, I'm focusing on some other fish that, you know, may have already spawned, so I can slow that bait down a little bit more, but I can run it through grass. It's the number one bait that I run through grass most of the time, that willow grass, eelgrass, stuff like that, is that Willow with the Colorado kicker. It just seems to attract a lot more fish. But like I said, I'm typically going to go with that lighter wire bait once the post spawn's over with and we get into that real summertime pattern. Now, I've got 3 spinner baits here in my hand, and all of them are the double willow, okay? Now, if you notice, these two are actually the same brand, okay? So if you notice, this one's a lot larger than this one. This one's a 3/8 ounce, and this one right here is a 1/4 ounce. And if you look, that wire that's on that spinnerbait is extremely thin compared to this one. So in return, this one's going to get more action, okay? I'm going to get more action out of this bait. It's going to be easier to stay on top of grass if I'm trying to just run it very, very close to the surface, not kind of dig down a little bit into like that sporadic willow grass that you can kind of navigate your bait through. And then this one right here is typically going to be one that, like today, you know, we've got tons of wind. Maybe these fish are out on a point chasing shad and stuff like that. This is that big boy that I'm going to throw, you know, up in that heavy wind, or that I'm going to throw next to very, very thick brush and cover and stuff like that, where I can get these fish out a lot easier. Because you're going to notice, you're going to catch a lot of fish with these 1/4 ounce spinner baits, a lot of fish, but you're going to break a lot of them too. Boat flipping and just, you know, getting them out of cover and stuff like that, you break a lot of 1/4 ounce spinner baits. But in either case, they catch a lot of fish. Now, another one that I want to talk about, if you notice, this one's a little bit different. This one's called the spot sticker. If you look, you know, see how the War Eagle kind of just comes straight up, the wire does up here, and then this one kind of comes up and bends. Okay, the spot sticker, this is a little bit different. Most of these are used for burning, okay? So it's what we call burning a spinnerbait. And what you do with this bait is, in the summertime pattern and the fall pattern, when these fish are just out just chasing as hard as they can, shad and, you know, different kinds of species that they eat and stuff like that. But either way, you can really take this bait and throw it out there and just reel it super fast, almost like you're burning a square bill, and this bait won't burn out. It runs true. It's got a very, very flare action. Most of the weight's back here, if you can see where the hook is and stuff. Not a lot of it's in the head, so it's got a real good balance to it. So it's thin wire also, so you're going to get a lot of action out of it. But either way, it allows that bait to get in that smaller profile. Spotted bass have a lot easier time eating it. Largemouth too. I catch tons of largemouth on these. But you know, that's a very, very simplistic breakdown on how you can choose, you know, what types of spinnerbaits you want to use. Super simple. Always remember your double Colorados, your colder months, your Willow to Colorado kicker. That's going to be your early spring all the way up into summer, okay? And then once you start using it during the summer and it kind of starts fading off, swap to that double Willow. You know, you maybe go to a 1/4 ounce. Maybe that works out for you most of the year. Maybe you go to a 1/2 ounce. That works out for you most of the year, depending on what kind of fishery and stuff like that you're on. Just play around with your sizes. But then, you know, stick with your double Willow pretty much all the way through until winter again. So but either way, guys, if the video helps you at all, make sure to like, subscribe. It helps me out a whole lot. Comment down below if you have any questions about spinner baits or any other thing pertaining to fishing, or if you just want to talk fishing. I love hearing from you guys. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time.